This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 133 of the Dressage Radio Show, brought to you with the generous support of Equestrian Collections. Hello, Chris Stafford here with you for another episode of the Dressage Radio Show, which, of course, is at that time of the year when we start to think about the holidays. They're fast approaching, and during this holiday season, I hope to bring you some fun episodes, not least of all the quiz series that we have each winter. And this year, I'm going to put a different spin on it, and it's going to be between grooms from eventing and grooms from dressage. So I'm looking for two grooms from dressage. I've got some volunteers already posted on our Facebook fan page. So I'm in the middle of producing that show, and I'll let you know more about that. But it definitely will be over the holiday season. But as we start to think about the holidays, we are already hearing of goals and dreams way beyond the holiday season. And that, of course, features the London Olympic Games next year. 2012 is a big year for a lot of our top dressage riders, and not least of all for young Sophie Wells from Great Britain. And we're going to make this week's show about goals and dreams. We're going to hear from Sophie in just a moment. And we're also going to hear from Australian Fiona Deering. She's got some advice on some confidence issues. She has a website called Remote Coach, so we're going to hear from Fiona a little bit later on. But before we get to any of that, I want to remind you about our sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show, and that is Equestrian Collections. As winter takes a firm grip on many parts of the world, you can experience the difference a good pair of winter horse riding boots can make. In tall riding boot and paddock boot styles, thermal winter riding boots will help keep your feet warmer and drier while you ride out in the winter weather or are just working in the barn. Most winter horse riding boots these days come lined with a thermal insulator like Thermalite and a waterproofer like Hydrotech. This integrated insulation and waterproofing approach gives you the best of both worlds, warm and dry feet. When you're out riding in the snow, rain, or windy winter weather, you will truly appreciate the difference. And you can find out more about these popular boots and the full range of Equestrian Collections winter wear by following the link on our show notes. Or go directly to equestriancollections.com. And if you use coupon code HRN at the checkout, you'll get $10 off your next order of $100 or more. Equestrian Collections is a participating retailer of the Horse World Gives Back campaign. Well, my featured guest this week is Sophie Wells, the British dressage rider who competes both in able-bodied dressage and para-dressage. She is already hugely successful as a team member, a high-performance member of the British team, and continuing with that success with the choice of rides. Well, I was able to catch up with Sophie and hear about the goals and dreams that she has with the London Olympic Games just around the corner. Sophie, thanks so much for joining me.
No problem.
Great to have you. Now, we're going to tell your story, Sophie, because you are one of those unique riders that is successful in both able-bodied and para-dressage. Already got medals hanging round your neck. So let's set the scene. Where are you based in England?
I'm based between Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire, just outside a small village. I live on a farm that my dad's inherited, so I've always had a really good opportunity with the space and the facilities to be able to pursue my equestrian dreams, I suppose.
Wow. So now, do you have any siblings, any brothers or sisters that are into horses as well?
I have a younger brother, but he used to be into horses when he was younger, but he used to be a fair weather rider. He didn't like getting cold and wet and dirty, and
oh dear.
So he's at university now doing architecture. So we're two very different people.
Right. Well, obviously you had a good country setting there. Were your parents into horses, Sophie, or did you start the trend?
No, I pretty much started the challenge. Mum had a pony when she was younger, but nothing serious. And then obviously Dad's a farmer. He used to farm cattle. But after the BSE outbreak, we had to get rid of them all. So now he's just an arable farmer.
Right. Now, what are you currently doing? Have you finished all your studies?
I finished my A-levels at school, and then I went on to university to study sport and exercise science, but I did a year of it and then realised I couldn't actually put enough time into both my riding and my education to do them both justice. So I decided to take leave from university, still keeping it open that I can still go back if I want to at a later date. But with 2012 around the corner, I really wanted to put everything into it and not look back with any regrets.
Right. So full-time now, trying to fulfil your dream, of course, getting on that Olympic squad for the London Olympic Games, as you said, just around the corner here. So let's just go back a little bit, Sophie, to explain why you're able to do both able-bodied dressage and para-dressage, because not everybody can do that.
I suppose I've been lucky growing up that I've always been treated without a disability. I've never been treated differently because I've got a disability. I was always given the same opportunities growing up to try the same things, to find my way around things. Because I don't have a severe disability, it only affects my hands and then my lower legs. On a good day, I can do most normal things. Obviously, because of the lack of fingers on my hands, that doesn't change. But I have nerve problems in my lower legs, so from a day-to-day basis, that can change. Thankfully, touch wood at the minute, as I'm on medication to try and keep the nerve problems more constant. So I can do more things without having any pain problems or the lack of power in them as well. So when I was growing up, I started with in able-bodied dressage through the British dressage system, and that was there I was talent spotted by David Hamer, who was the manager of the world-class para dressage program. He spotted me and kind of said, "Have you had a look at para dressage? Have you been classified?" And I really had no idea about it. And I was only 13 at the time, so I was very young in dressage anyway. So I went along and got classified, and I was really lucky to get on the program when I was 13 onto the World Class Development Program, which supported me a hell of a lot, and I don't think I'd be here today without them. But they also gave me the chance to keep my able-bodied side going. I still wanted to compete against the able-bodied people in the country and go as far as I could with that. And I felt that kind of pushed me a little bit more, and we got to a higher level. And then I wanted to compete internationally, and luckily I was given that opportunity by the young rider selectors for the able-bodied team. And then went to the Europeans in 2010 and 2011 to compete for Great Britain on the Young Rider European team. And I was just really grateful for the opportunity that the selectors, even though I was very different and no one had done that before, that they still believed in me and gave me that chance to prove that I could do it.
That's wonderful. Well, just explain to us exactly what your disability is, Sophie, and how it affects you. You said you are minus some fingers. Tell us exactly how it affects you now in normal functioning? Obviously, you managed to ride as capable as anybody, but what was the original cause of all this?
It's called amniotic band syndrome. It happens pre-birth, and the part of the amniotic sac starts to come away, and it restricts some of the limbs in the fetus. And in my case, it was around my fingers and around my lower legs. So when I was born, the doctors were able to save a couple of my fingers, even if they are damaged. I lost quite a few, and they also managed to save my feet. But I've got really deep scarring around my ankles, and that's obviously restricted around the tendons and muscles and nerves around from running from my lower leg into my feet. So I don't have any sensation in my feet below the scars, and obviously that causes the nerve problems as well. When I'm riding, I have looped reins, and the loops are on a buckle, so we can move them up and down depending on how long I need them. And I just hold the loop with one finger on each hand. So obviously with my horses, they can't be too strong because you don't have much power, I suppose, from one finger. And on my right hand, it's only got it's short. It's a short finger. It's not a full length finger. So I have to really focus on the basic way of going for the horses to make sure that I can cope with that from one finger.
Yeah, it's interesting how horses get used to you, don't they? They seem to read your disability, and it's amazing how you form a partnership based on that you have an understanding, don't you?
Yeah, I think they're really intelligent animals, and sometimes they can take advantage, and sometimes, but most of the time, they're very understanding, and obviously you have to work hard at the partnership. But I have a horse that I've had for the past 5 years that I've trained up, and then a horse that I've had for 3 years, and we've made a really strong partnership. And it's taken time to for them to start to understand my way of riding, because obviously it's a very different feel in the contact from having a whole hand around a rein, and then just having one finger that there's very little movement in that. So it is a very different feel in the mouth, I think.
Does this mean then, with your disability, Sophie, you have pain at all times, or is it controlled with medication?
Not in my hands. I have my hands don't cause me pain, but it's more in my lower legs and the nerve pain I was explaining earlier. That is most of the time controlled by a nerve blocker drug, which is legal, but it just manages it at a low level. Sometimes it's a lot worse than others, and there's no real pattern to it necessarily. Anything can affect it, from stress to the amount I've done, the amount of walking I've done or standing. So I just have to be really careful and try and manage that, especially when we're away at competitions. Because I don't really want to be on crutches when I'm competing. So I try and make sure that we're in the best shape by not doing too much, which is really hard.
How about the cold weather? Does that affect you?
Yeah, the cold weather, because the muscles respond really well to heat. It really relaxes them, because when the nerves trigger off, it kind of spasms the muscle. So obviously that's really painful, but the heat actually really relaxes them. So obviously going through the winter, it is worse, and I seem to have more episodes where it is bad. So I go everywhere with a hot water bottle and have to keep my legs up, but we know how to manage them now.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a management program going there, Sophie,
yeah.
And you're clearly a woman of strength and determination to be as successful as you are. But of course, it all comes with the right partners. Let's talk about the horses that are your best friends, and who you're riding now and who you hope to be riding at the London Olympic Games.
I have my top horse called Pinocchio. He's 14 years old and owned by Dr. Jackie and Neil Walker. I got the ride on him 3 years ago after he'd competed to a high level in able-body dressage. I was very lucky to get the ride on him, and I've built my way up from quite a low level to he's won me 3 European gold medals and 2 world gold medals last year in Kentucky. I've also been to the 2 Young Rider Europeans on him, so he's done a massive boost in my career. And I feel so lucky to have been given the opportunity to ride him. And he's such a lovely horse. Although he's about 17 too, he's very gentle. And he's a pleasure to work with every day. And he's just so kind and loving.
How tall are you, Sophie?
5'2".
5'2". So he's a big horse for you then.
Yeah, I don't know why I seem to be attracted to the big horses, because I've got my second horse, he's also 17 too, and I've had him since he was 5. So I've had him for about 5 years now, and I've trained him up, and he's kind of been in the background for quite a few years while I started my championship career on Pinocchio, and this year Reese came out and he got 3 gold medals at European Championships in Belgium. So that was really special for me because I've trained him from the beginning, and it's been all my work, and obviously the road's been up and down and slightly challenging, and he's broken a few ribs of mine, and when he was younger, a little bit cheeky, but he's a very big character on the yard, and he's like a playful dog that never grows up. And he'd be the little boy that is always in trouble for something, and so he's very much a character, but he's also very loving, and we have a really good relationship, and he can read my moods really well, which is good in one respect, but also if I'm not in such a good mood, he doesn't go so well, so I've got to make sure I got over all the right vibes to him.
Bit of psychology going on there by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
So which of those two would be your preferred rides next year, Sophie?
I really couldn't say. I've obviously been on a really big journey with both of them, and they're both very special to me. So going into next year, they haven't competed against each other for a good year now. So I wouldn't know who would beat who, and who would be stronger. And obviously, anything can happen with horses. So I'm hoping to just campaign both of them next year and see what happens.
What a wonderful position to be in.
Thank you.
You're at a fabulous state to be in. I envy you that. 2 world-class horses that you get to choose, hopefully, which one you would ride in Olympic Games. All things being equal, as you said, horses can do anything. So let's talk about the schedule now. Here we are in the end of November. What's your schedule over the winter, Sophie, in terms of competition and, the milestones along the way leading up to those games and the final selection?
Well, I've just been invited to compete at the FEI Young Rider World Cup final in Frankfurt from the 14th to the 18th of December. So that's a massive thing for me, and it's the first time a para rider has competed at the final. And only 14 riders are invited, one from each country, and the FEI have to select which one they would like to invite. So that's a very honoured place that I hopefully am going to take up.
Well, I'm glad you've mentioned that, because I wanted to congratulate you on that. That's a terrific honour, isn't it?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was so surprised when I found out, and now obviously it's got a lot of hard work ahead of us to prepare for it. But I think it'll be a really good preparation for next year with the crowd that will be there and the atmosphere. I think it'll be much bigger than I've competed in before, and a really good opportunity to get in front of the world-class judges, and just a really nice experience, hopefully, and to end our young rider career. I'm in the last year of young riders now, so next year technically I'd be going into seniors.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about that.
Well, it is an exciting prospect right there, making your transition into the big league, the big grown-up league. So what would be the program that you would have to fulfill then come the new year, Sophie, on your way to Olympic selection?
We have several championships nationally that we have to qualify for. We have the Winter Championships, which are held at Hartbury College and we have to qualify for those. So we have several qualifying competitions to compete in before we get there. We also have the national championships at Hickstead, which is our summer championships in England. So we have several competitions. We have to then qualify to get to that. And then we have our final selection, which is Hartbury International, where the selectors will make their final decision. And we also have one other international, either Deauville or Morcel, that the selectors will choose probably closer to the time, whether they want to send each horse and rider to each competition for a little bit more experience and exposure before selection. So looking ahead, it looks quite a busy year, especially with Tou's campaign. But hopefully it'll be a good year, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my horses stay sound and healthy and happy in their work, which is the important thing to me. And hopefully then the results will come out of that.
Extremely promising, as you say. But what is a typical day, Sophie, now for you? I mean, if you've dedicated your life to your dressage career, what is a day in the life of Sophie Wells?
Normally, well, I groom for myself, so I do all the looking after of the horses by myself, and I have an old retired horse at home as well as a young horse looking forward to 2016. So I have 4 horses that I get up, feed and look out, and then I will ride 3 of the horses in the morning and over lunchtime, and then they will all go out in the field for a few hours in the afternoon. So while they're out in the field, I'll sort the stables out again and get ready for them coming in with the hay nets and feeds. And then sort them out when they come in. And then we have a lot of paperwork that normally needs doing, and something I really dislike doing. And normally a gym session at some point, 3 or 4 times a week, that I'll need to fit in as well. So
you need to work on your personal fitness like anybody, don't you, to be an elite rider? Yeah,
I think personal fitness and the biomechanics and position of the horse is really important. And I have a biomechanics coach that helps me with my position, with effectiveness of my body, with my riding, which has helped a lot. And I think, to give the horse the best possible chance to ride, it's got to be in the best possible position as well, to be as effective as we can. So for me, that it's really important.
So, forgive me for asking this, Sophie, but is personal fitness and the core strengths, is that a challenge for you because of the physical restrictions you have in your lower limb? Do you have a tough time with that?
I wouldn't necessarily say I have a tough time with it. Sometimes training for it is difficult because of the problems with my lower legs. So some of the exercises that I'd like to do, I can't necessarily do because it triggers off the nerve problems, or I can't take the weight through my lower legs like I need to. But for my core strength is probably one of my better attributes that we've worked on a lot. And obviously my lower legs can be one of my weaker points, just generally because of the training that is so dependent on whether my lower legs are good, if the nerves are working well, and if I'm not in so much pain that day. So a lot of it is very much dependent on a daily basis. What we wait and see what happens.
Yes, I'm sure, taking it day by day. But, what you have in terms of your potential and your lifestyle here, has to be supported somehow. And no doubt, like any other rider, you're always looking for sponsorship, aren't you, Sophie? Is that a challenge?
We're very lucky in England to have the support of the World Class Programme and UK Sport. And the National Lottery, they give us a lot of funding to enable us to commit ourselves 100% to the sport. And we wouldn't be where we are today as a nation without them. whether it be in para dressage or in the other Olympic disciplines. So we're very lucky with that. I have several personal sponsors that have really helped me on my road to, hopefully to next year. But obviously getting the financial support is the most difficult rather than product support. So, trying to manage financially and juggling that around to support 4 horses and making sure we're doing as much training as possible and getting as much training with my trainer, Angela Weiss, who I've been with for 8 years. And she's done a massive amount for me, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her. So that's obviously a big, where a lot of my money goes into the training and making sure that we're, the horses and myself are in the best shape we can be. And then obviously, in my earlier days, my family has been very supportive financially in the facilities that we've got at home.
Well, clearly those sponsorships are all important, and I think you should mention them all because no doubt, that's what they enjoy, is that association with you. So why don't you give a shout out to your sponsors, Sophie?
I'm very grateful for all my sponsors, which include Dodson & Howell Limited, which is a feed company, Black Country Saddles, who support me with both my saddles for my top horses. Asmar Equestrian Clothing have given me a wide range of clothing to compete and train in, and they're very tailored and really good look. Robinson's Animal Health Care support me with the veterinary care for the horses and keep me well in stock just in case anything happens like it does with horses. And Blue Chip Joint Release supplement which I use on the horses, and also Equilibrium products support me with the boots that I compete and train in, and then my biomechanics coach Teresa Dixon, who supports me with her time to get us in the best shape we can be in.
Well, that's a wonderful collection of sponsors, and obviously, day-to-day routine is hard enough for you, but you must have an amazing determination, Sophie, to fulfil these ambitions. So when we look further than the London Olympic Games, what would Sophie Wells like to be doing in 5 years' time, or are you going to make this a professional career and just keep going?
Hopefully. Obviously, I try and look at things and take everything day by day. I've learned in the past that anything can happen, but, my dream of competing at Grand Prix and competing on the international circuit in the able-bodied senior teams would be absolutely amazing, but obviously that is very dependent on horsepower and financial backing, but I'd just love to compete somewhere like Olympia in the Grand Prix. We've been there and watched for a few years now. And, it would be a massive dream to be able to compete somewhere like Olympia in the Grand Prix.
Well, I think I saw somewhere that you did train with Vicky Thompson some years ago. Now, Vicky, I knew a long time ago, not long after she had an awful accident herself. She broke her back, didn't she? And she has since recovered and continues in the sport. So obviously she was a role model for you. Who are your big idols right now in dressage?
Obviously, Vicky was a massive influence as I started dressage. She started training me when I was 10 for 3 years, so she gave me a really good grounding in dressage and really inspired me to go on and to be the perfectionist that I am. My trainer, Angela Weiss, is a massive inspiration to me with the way she rides and her connection with the horses. And then I look at all the riders on the international teams, and I can take something from each and every one of them that will inspire me, whether it be the way they ride or certain characteristics that they have or the partnership with their horses. I think that, it takes so much to be able to get to the top of the sport, that every rider has, something special about them.
They certainly do, and you do too, Sophie. And now as you get ready for a very big year in your career, the London Olympic Games looms on the horizon. I want to wish you the very, very best of luck with that. Good luck with your horses, and I hope you can fulfill more dreams.
Thank you very much.
And with the Olympic Games in mind, the British Dressage Senior Selection Panel has been extended. They've recently announced that they wanted to encompass further expertise ahead of those London Olympic Games to make sure they have the best they can possibly offer. And that selection panel is headed by their chairman, Nick Burton, with Sandy Phillips, Jane Kidd, and they will be joined by the former chairman of selectors and international judge, David Trott, Linda Whetstone, a former British Dressage board member, and List 1 judge and solicitor Simon Hardwick. So really putting all their power behind the selection there for the London Olympic Games, and good luck to all of them. We will be bringing you updates, of course, as the season unfolds, because really things will all start to warm up once we get past the holiday season with selection trials, not just for dressage, but for all the Olympic disciplines. So stay tuned to Dressage, Jumping and Eventing radio shows for updates and news of those Olympic Games preparations. And to remind you, of course, that I will be there next summer covering all 3 Olympic disciplines on all 3 shows for the Horse Radio Network. Well, my next guest this week is from Down Under. As you know, we try and cover all corners of the globe here on the Dressage Radio Show. And this week, I'm going to be joined by Fiona Deering, who runs a website called Remote Coach. And she has some advice on all kinds of issues relating to riding, particularly at the lower levels of the sport. So I hope this is helpful to you, because she has some advice this week on confidence issues. So let's get Fiona on the line. Presumably that remote means you can coach anybody anywhere in the world, Fiona.
That's right, and hello everyone. I started working with Remote Coach. Obviously Australia is a very large country and many people don't have access to quality coaching in those more remote areas, and I set up Remote Coach with a view to be able to provide those people with quality coaching via the internet, via downloads, phone calls and email.
Well, let's give everyone a sense of your background and why you're qualified to be a remote coach, Fiona. How did you get involved in dressage and equitation?
I grew up in Tasmania, which is that small island to the south of Australia. And
I didn't realise anybody grew up there. I thought you got born there and then you jumped onto the mainland pretty quick, and not in your case.
When I was about 20, I escaped. But my family are all still down there, and it's a lovely, lovely spot to go home and have a bit of a relax, that's for sure. But I grew up, bugging my parents for a horse until I was probably about 11, and then we got a horse which was completely inappropriate and promptly put my father's hip into about 10 pieces from memory. And I went on then and grew up and did some hunting and a little bit of eventing and a little bit of showing, all of that stuff that kids enjoy doing. And when I was about 20, I moved to Sydney and got the dressage bug, which I'd always steered well clear of, and discovered that as I got older, I didn't want to, leave the ground over the jumps quite so far anymore. And just fell in love with it, I guess, the discipline and the beauty of it, and the actual, the time it takes and the schooling and the training and the bond that you build between the horse and yourself.
Now, do you have any formal training yourself, Fiona?
I'm not qualified with any of the NCAS schemes in Australia. I'm currently also trying to do a law degree, so that leaves a little less time for other study at the moment. I actually left riding for quite a few years and followed my career, and now I've come back and fallen in love with it all over again.
So you did some competing, did you, along the way?
Yes, nothing huge. And look, I haven't ridden at any, great or exciting level, but I guess what what my other careers in marketing and product management have given me is a very good way, very strong communication abilities.
Right. Now, when did you start up the remote coach?
Remote coach has probably been an idea for about 2 years, and it has become a reality in about the last 8 months.
Right. So what is it you mainly address then with the clients that you have, and are they from all over Australia?
Yes, look, I do a lot of face-to-face coaching in and around my hometown of Melbourne, and I also do the remote coaching with people from all over Australia. So I work with riders from probably your intro level through to your first level primarily. And I have a lot of clients who have either come back to riding as adults, maybe after children and starting their family, or are in a position now to be able to follow the dream they may have always had as a child, but not had a chance to take it up as a child.
Well, one of those things, of course, that everyone has to address at some point in their riding, whether they're amateurs or professionals, and certainly the vast majority of our listeners, of course, are competing at the lower levels or enjoying the sport, not at Grand Prix level. And that, of course, is confidence. So
that's right.
I think you've got some tips then about confidence and how it fits and what you would use as tools to coach people into developing confidence.
Yes, look, I do a lot of work with nervous riders, and I actually find that's some of the most rewarding work that I do. And I also find that confidence is something that you can often address even before you're on the horse. So, ensuring that the horse you have is a good match for you, making sure that time, horses take a lot of time, they take a lot of money. And if you're going to be doing this, it's something most of us do as a hobby. And we want that time to be spent enjoyably, not gripped with anxiety and fear. So making sure that your horse is a good match for you is a really good start. Perhaps if you do have some confidence issues, something that's freshly broken isn't the right choice. So choosing the right partner for the journey. Also, having a bit of a look at how you are in your daily life. Are you someone who tackles any problems that come up in life with a, let's sort it out attitude, or do you prefer to wait and hope that someone else fixes it for you? Now, there's obviously no right or wrong in the greater scheme of things with however you are like that, but it's important for you to recognise that, because that sort of also comes in with how you're going to approach issues with your horse, whether you're going to just want to curl up in a ball and hope it all goes away, or whether you're prepared to work through it with the horse. And I see a lot of that, a lot of people that may not be quite well matched with the horse.
Right. Well, give us some ideas of how you overcome the lack of confidence with your clients.
Sure. So I work with them to ensure that, particularly on the ground, the horse respects them and respects their space. So if the horse doesn't have that respect for the person on the ground, there's probably not a great chance that they're going to have it once you're on your back. And I find that once people feel that they can really have that horse's respect on the ground, that they feel much more comfortable about getting on. So one of the things I actually do is make sure the horse really respects your space, and quite often I find horses that are a little bit pushy on the ground, a little bit just not paying attention of where their person is, really. They don't think that they matter, so they just go all over the top of them. One of the first things I ask clients to do is not to let their horse in their space for a week. So if that involves them jumping up and down and looking like a bit of a madman for a moment and making the horse take a step back out of their space, that's what happens. And, people will turn to me and go, oh, no, look, he's put his head up and he's scared. And I went, yeah, but he's looking at you. So he's now aware of you and how much space you need around you. And within 2 or 3 goes of that, the horse is actually way more aware of where the person is and is starting to respect that space a little bit.
Now, what level of riders do you mainly have as clients, Fiona?
Probably up to about your first level in the States, which we'd call novice in Australia. Okay. Particularly in Victoria, we have a great association called the Adult Riders Association, which is a group of, it's like Pony Club for grown-ups, basically. They have rallies once a month, and you can ride from what they refer to as grade 5 through to grade 1, which is sort of around that novice elementary level or your first, second level. And it's a very... It's a great organisation because it's fun and it's not official competition, and a lot of what I'd class as adult amateurs are really enjoying that. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't work in other states in Australia, but certainly in Victoria it's a very strong organisation.
Now, do you work with para-dressage riders, or do you have to have a qualification in Australia to do that?
I don't, and I'm not entirely sure of what the qualification is, but many of the para coaches in Australia have some kind of bodywork background, so they might be physios or osteos, and I think that's obviously very important when you're working with para dressage. But again, it's another thing that's very much growing in Australia and I believe around the world. So it's great to see. I know I have a couple of very good friends who are doing quite well in para dressage at the moment, so I really enjoy following them.
Okay, great. So lots of confidence issues that can be addressed, Fiona, and they can find out more about what you offer, Remote Coach, on your website. You have an active website there, Remote Coach. It's a blog, isn't it? WordPress.com.
Yeah, that's right. There's also a website now which is remote-coach.com, and of course the Facebook page.
Okay, Facebook as always, of course. All right, well, thank you very much indeed for joining us this week, Fiona.
Thank you so much, Chris.
And there will be a link to Fiona's website on our show notes at dressageradio.com. Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. Of course, our holidays are looming upon us fast, so I think just to get into the spirit of it all, I'll play you out this week with some music from Templeton Thompson, who, of course, is a great friend of the Horse Radio Network. But one final note before I leave you this week, and that is that we are fast approaching the 400th episode of all the shows that I do here on the network, and I want to thank you for all your support in helping us reach this milestone. And if you want to leave a message to mark this anniversary, you can do so on the Facebook fan page, and also you can send me an email to chris@horseradionetwork.com. And please also mention if you would like me to read this on the air. Well, that wraps it up for this week. I want to thank you all again for listening. I will be back at the same time, at the same place next week. So until then, I'll leave you with a festive message from Templeton Thompson.
I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas, and hoping that you're warm and home and safe, surrounded by your herd, singing peace on earth and happy ye holidays. Well, the snow is softly falling on the pasture, and there's a holly wreath hanging on the barn. Jingle bells are jingling, lights are all a-twinkling, Christmas time is coming to the farm. Yeah, I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas, and hoping that you're warm and home and safe, surrounded by your herd, singing peace on earth and happy ye holidays. Yeah. Christmas tree is loaded up with presents, and the kid in me just loves this time of year. There's no dream too big for dreaming, ain't nothing like the feeling when all the ones you love are gathered near. So I'm wishing you Christmas, hoping that you're warm and home and safe, surrounded by your herd, singing peace on earth and happy ye holidays.